Hello and welcome back to the Toffee Blues YouTube channel, your source for all things Everton. My name is Thomas, back on the channel today with another opposition view. Back to the league again, and this time against tough opposition, Wolves. Once again, we got in touch with Wolves Fancast, and today we are joined by Gully. Gully, thanks for coming on. How are you doing today?
Yeah, not bad. Thanks, Thomas. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, especially, well, both of us making it through in the Cup, us kind of just, obviously yourselves beating Palace, but I want to come to that first. Obviously, you have just won against Palace, but tricky run of form in the league. You have had some tough fixtures looking at United and Spurs, but then probably a disappointing loss against Burnley in a draw to Brighton, I think it was. So how's your season been going so far? Has it been a disappointing one, or is it, well, obviously you've been plagued by injuries. So what have you made of your season so far?
It's been an interesting one, to say the least. I think we've set a standard and set a bar for ourselves that we're not really reaching at the moment. Like you say, there are caveats to that in the sense that we have had injuries compared to the last two seasons prior to that. We literally couldn't name you like a serious injury that we picked up over like a kind of extended period of time, and they all seem to have come at once really. And we are suffering for it. Nuno does like to have a small squad, but there just seems to be a bit of an inconsistency within the team at the moment that we just can't shake off. And while the results haven't been good, I think the performances, there's fine margins at the moment that are kind of doing us, which a lot of people will blame Nuno for. We are a bit of a safety first team, so we've lost leads against teams like Newcastle, having gone 1-0 up and sat back against a team. Brighton, the other really good example of being 3-1 up and still drawing the game. And there's been questions answered to Nuno for probably the first time since he joined the club.
Yeah, and kind of just looking back through your fixtures here, it seems there's been quite a lot of kind of tactical changes. You played 4 at the back, 3 at the back, 5 at the back. Is that kind of showing you tactical flexibility, do you think, or is that more struggling to find a solution to try and pick up a run of good form?
I think the whole idea at the start of the season was to kind of morph the way we play a little bit anyway. We had become very settled, but also very predictable in what we did. Everybody kind of knew what to expect from us. If you think about the lockdown period when we first came back, and pretty much every game was a formula of we'd sit in for about an hour, bring on Traore and try and win the game that way for the remaining half an hour. And obviously everybody knows very well that the first 45 minutes almost never counted for Wolves in terms of going and chasing a game, and it's repeated that's the case. So we needed to flex a little bit, and we are adjusting at the moment to being a little bit more unpredictable. I think we're starting to get to grips with it, with switching between the 4 and 3, and we're taking a bit more of a kind of horses for courses approach, depending on who we're playing. And I think naturally there will be a little bit of a transitional period as a result, but with the players at our disposal, I think we should be able to do that and should still be picking up better results.
Yeah, and the last time obviously we played was that, well, for us, very disappointing performance during that lockdown time. We lost 3-0 at Molineux. Kind of since then, obviously, we had a very short transfer window, but did you strengthen where you needed to, and kind of looking ahead to January, are you going to have to strengthen again? Obviously, you have had injuries, so what would you make of your squad as a whole?
I think if you thought about the transfer window, lost some key players in Diogo Jota and Matt Doherty, but we brought in the likes of Nelson Semedo as an example. In theory, an upgrade. It's taken a bit of time for him to settle, but realistically, he's the only strength to the starting 11 that we've had. Everybody else has been to kind of pad out the squad. Fabio Silva was brought in without any intention of kind of throwing him in at the deep end, but as a result of injuries, we've had to, make him, get more minutes than we probably would have anticipated. But I think whether the squad depth did look at the start of the season like it was a bit better, more options off the bench, but the injuries have really kind of, laid us low and kind of got us down to the bare bones. And that squad depth is still something that we need to really consider, I think.
Yeah, and then kind of just from more of a tactical perspective, again, we just mentioned how you've changed a couple of times. You are the home team, whether that really matters without fans anymore or not. But I think for the past, well, kind of few weeks, really, the past month, Everton have really suited being the kind of the underdog team. Well, underdog in terms of the quality of games against Chelsea, games against Leicester. We were happy to sit on the counter-attack. We were happy to sit defensively. But when we've come up against sides like West Ham and Sheffield United, we've struggled really to kind of break teams down like that. So how are you expecting to kind of set up tactically in this game? And will it ended up being with an Everton counter-attacking perspective, which will be a lot more positive for us? But how do you see yourself setting up, really?
Yeah, I think since we've come up, I've always kind of fancied us against Everton because I always perceived that the club would never kind of take the stance that they felt they should be counter-attacking against a team like us. And now that might have changed over the past couple of years, just because I think the home fixture last season where you guys won was probably I think that's the only win you've had against us since we got promoted. And we've shown in other games, like the one in Project Restart, that we're capable of taking you apart when we're on top form. So it might be the case that Ancelotti thinks that he needs to kind of sit back a little bit more on this occasion, and will probably suit you guys to play that way. I think we, as just much like you guys do, struggle to break down teams a little bit. So it could be quite a cagey affair in general. I think we will look to try and stifle Dominic Calvert-Lewin's influence in the sense that we don't want to encourage people crossing the ball into the box a lot. And as a result, we'll probably play a back three if you're asking me. And as a result, we will be slightly more negative, but with the idea that Adama Traore, Pedro Neto, who've both been playing pretty well in the last couple of games, especially, are still a real good threat on the break.
Yeah, and we all know about players like Jimenez that are out injured. I think Podence, if that's how I pronounce his name, is out injured as well. Is there any kind of more team news that, a fan like me wouldn't really know about that's going to weaken you necessarily?
Not necessarily weaken. What we did do was recall Morgan Gibbs-White and Patrick Catrone, who have been out on loan. Gibbs-White done well at Swansea, got an injury, but must for us at the moment, with Podence in particular probably being out for longer than we anticipated. And he's going to have to come in and do a job, not necessarily from the start, but at least as an option from the bench. And Catrone's kind of come back to kind of protect Fabio Silva a little bit, I think, as our main striker, and prevent him from burning out, lack of confidence, and, just to keep him out of the limelight a little bit, because he has come into the spotlight naturally without Jimenez being in the team, and maybe Catrone can offer us a little bit more than he has done over the last few weeks. An interesting lineup in prospects for sure.
Yeah, we're doing this before the press conferences, but we have a fairly fit squad. Players like Richarlison, James Rodriguez are back. So who are you looking as the danger men on both sides that are going to have an impact on Tuesday?
Is Digne back as well?
Digne did come back against Rotherham. Yeah, he didn't play the full game, but I think he probably will against yourselves.
Yeah, I think he makes a big difference to you guys. Richarlison always seems to score against us as well, ever since his debut. So we'd always keep an eye for him. But yeah, again, like I mentioned, Calvert-Lewin, I think in the penalty box is become probably the best striker in the league since the season started. Again, very good in the air, very good at getting on the end of things. And concern, I'd say, if we don't have Willy Bolly, who's been out himself as well, to kind of counter the aerial presence especially. I'd fancy Calvert-Lewin to maybe get on the end of things if we do start allowing crosses into the box. But my hope is that we kind of stop that supply line.
Yeah, so and who do you see kind of threatening us mainly? If you look at our squad and assess kind of the weaknesses that you think we have, who can you see us hurting us on Tuesday?
I think Pedro Neto has probably been our standout player this season. He looks like an absolute class act these days, especially considering he's only 20 years old. He's come on leaps and bounds, and he kind of carries the team as an attacking threat on his own sometimes, especially since Adama Traore hasn't been firing on all cylinders. But Traore, last couple of games in particular, looks like he's getting back to something like his best. So I'd say those two, just because I also don't know who's going to be starting through the middle. So it's anybody's guess at the moment whether Fabio Silva is going to be up there or Catrone. So those two for sure, they're carrying the can for the team as a whole from an attacking perspective. And we don't really have goals from other parts of the pitch. Leander Dendonker's just come back, who is encouraged to get into the box but isn't the best finisher. So look out for that. But really, it's all going to come down to Traore Neto.
Yeah, just to round off, I have two more questions. First question, predictions for the match in general. What do you see happening?
I think it's going to be a 1-0 either way, because like you say, you're looking to set up on the counter attack these days a bit more. So going to be a cagey affair, I think.
Yeah, and then the final question, completely unrelated to the match. What's your best, weirdest, or strangest experience you've had with a footballer that you've met?
Strangest experience with a footballer. I once was out doing some late Christmas Eve shopping. Well, nearly 10 years ago, probably now, and I bumped into Michael Mancienne in Primark
Oh, right.
as well. So not the kind of place you'd expect to see a professional footballer doing his shopping on Christmas Eve in a budget kind of clothing store, but yeah, it was an interesting one for sure.
Great. So there you have it. Thank you all very much for watching. That is your Wolves opposition view. Thanks to Gully for joining us. I can't really see which way this game's going. I think it's going to be very much a 50-50 affair. Of course, you've struggled for form, but as we know, losing to West Ham, as we did last game in the league, we can kind of just turn up and play really disappointingly, and we do have this horrible record against Wolves, which hopefully will shake. But check out all the social media down below. Check out Gully and all the Toffee Blues. So thank you very much for watching, and join us next time on the channel.